Molo Sanbonani, hello, how's it? Good morning to this, the Thursday edition of Vuka Nazo, your morning news analysis show. My name is Sihle Ngobese, aka Big Daddy Liberty. Remember, if you're watching this simulcast on YouTube or on Facebook, do me a favor. Hit that like button, please. And of course, it sounded like a robot. Do me a favor. Hit that like button and of course, subscribe to the channel, especially if you're watching that is on YouTube. Help me reach my goal of 50,000 subscribers by the end of the year. And guys, remember, share this show, especially after you've just watched it. Now, with that being said, we have a website, remember. Find us at bigdaddyliberty.com. There, of course, you can also pledge some financial support to the work that we do. Anything between 50 to 100 Rand a month, 75 Rand per month is an average that we do, and we really do appreciate it. We're going to formalize a BDL club where there'll be merch for those of you who are part of the club. In that sense, enough with my jibber jabber. How about we get straight into the news? Okay, I take you to Ethekwini. Durban is where I take you, where Action SA recently held a press conference where they intend taking the city of Durban to court. That's over, of course, the issue of the continuing leaking sewage into our river system and indeed into the ocean, with Durban's ocean being a turd fest of sorts. And a city, indeed a mayor, desperate to convince us to swim in that turd-infested water. Remember that image of the Durban mayor, Kaunda, swimming in feces-infested water. Yum yum, lapping all of that yummy, delicious water up. But nonetheless, Action SA taking effectively court action against the city. Congratulations and kudos to them. Now, what was very interesting about this particular press briefing, which caught my eye, was who was accompanying Action SA's Zwagele Mngango, and that, of course, was the ABC leader, or the Abantu Batho Congress leader, Pilani Mavundla. Now, Pilani Mavundla is no stranger to this show. You remember all the way back in Vuka Nazo 58, I shared with you that story of the then deputy mayor of Durban. That's exactly what Mavundla used to be, the deputy mayor of Durban, because he sold his soul and he sold his party out to the ANC, lumping himself with the ANC after the recent local government elections. And that drew the ire and the scorn and the anger of many a Durbanite who had sent a very strong message that the ANC should lose Durban. Remember, the ANC only got 40% of votes here in Durban. In other words, 60% of Durbanites said to hell with the ANC. However, it was small parties like the Abantu Batho Congress and Pilani Mavundla, its leader, who propped up the ANC after that election and brought the ANC back into power. Now, that same Mavundla, who, as I was about to say, you remember in episode 58, had a bitter war of words with the ANC mayor of Ethekwini, Kaunda. Remember that little spat over whose face is on the billboard of a cleaning campaign? Yo! Politicians and their vanity. Well, the ANC, of course, now looking elsewhere for another puppet to have as a deputy mayor to prop it up, of course, in Ethekwini, because it needs those small opposition parties to stay in power. Zandile Mieni from the NFP, that new axis of evil that has developed in KwaZulu-Natal of the ANC, EFF, and the NFP, and other smaller parties effectively shaking up the existing coalitions, Durban being no different. But let me get back to Pilani Mavundla of the ABC party, who was standing next to the Action SA's KZN leader. And a lot of people are wondering why. Why is he there? Why is he suddenly schmoozing with other opposition parties that stand against the ANC, when he himself, that's what Mavundla, used to be part of that ANC coalition as deputy mayor? Nice plush position that he got there. Well, after his ousting, it seems as though Pilani Mavundla has had a revelation of sorts, now apologizing to us voters for ever propping the ANC up. Listen to this.
I also want to say in this platform, I owe an apology to the people of Ethekwini that we took a decision this time to support the ANC in November and the bloc of smaller parties. And we supported the ANC hoping that they will listen, they will understand. We're injecting a bit of oomph in them to understand how you should run the government. But obviously, they're not prepared to do that. Instead of that, they felt that there was somebody gatekeeping, which was myself. And I'm hereby saying to all the people of Ethekwini, I've let you down. Because should I remove ANC in 2021, maybe we wouldn't be sitting where we are sitting. We are where we are, and I think at 57, I'm old enough to admit if I've done anything wrong, and that is one political blunder that I ever done in my life. It was the West to support the ANC.
Yeah, there you heard it. Now he says he's old enough to apologize when he has erred. And look, here's the thing. As a Jew, when someone apologizes, of course, I'll accept that apology. And indeed, I think a lot of voters, from a moral point of view, will accept someone who says, hey, man, mea culpa, I was wrong. However, it doesn't mean we forget exactly what his party has done and the treachery of these smaller opposition parties who are elected as opposition parties, but then decide to throw their lot in with the ANC. It just makes them untrustworthy, and it begs the question, or it beggars the question in my case, what will Durbanites do? Will they reward ABC in the next election? Who knows? But does this also now signal a new coalition perhaps forming in Durban to perhaps oust the ANC? Will we see that sort of movement? Again, I don't know, but there's a lot of moving pieces in the story, and something we'll be keeping an eye on, especially as the ongoing coalition mix of parties in KZN seems to be what will be determining the 2024 election outcome. Okay, now I take you to Eskom Megawatt Park. That's the headquarters of Eskom, where it made a big announcement, of course, that 48 people had been arrested for various criminal activities that had been affecting the operations of Eskom. Now, you would think to yourself, yay, 48 people, that sounds like a large number, especially after the South African National Defence Force, you'll remember, had been deployed to look after the various power plants in the country that had been under suspicion of being sabotaged. Now, you're probably thinking, wow, this is paying dividends. But here are the questions I need to ask here. I'd made the point before that it's wholly inappropriate to have the South African National Defence Force being the chief agency that responds to the needs or the security needs of Eskom, when in reality what is needed here is, if anything, an army of auditors, an army of investigators, and indeed the actual South African police force itself that has arresting powers to go through that organization with a fine comb, indeed go through its suppliers and arrest these syndicates, the big kingpins who are destroying Eskom by effectively pilfering it, almost like pirates, buccaneers, literally pillaging Eskom to their benefit and our detriment. That's what was more appropriate and what needed here. And indeed, my suspicions are confirmed when Andre de Ruyter himself, in an interview, basically pointed out that these 48 arrests seems more like the foot soldiers of these big kingpin syndicates that are destroying Eskom, and not the actual syndicate kingpins themselves. I'm going to play a quick interview where de Ruyter in addition points out that it's kind of funny to him that the attentions of the spooks or the state security agency that has seemingly been also deployed to look into the matters at Eskom are more preoccupied with watching Andre de Ruyter than the criminals themselves. Watch this.
On a daily basis in Mpumalanga, and state security are just missing in action. They did see fit, however, to send one of their agents to COP27 to keep an eye on me. When one of my friends asked him what he was doing there, he said, no, just keeping an eye on the big guy. So clearly I am under suspicion of treasonous activity, but the real culprits can act with impunity. Now, I don't know. These things are Kafkaesque.
Indeed, Andre de Ruyter makes this point quite overtly in an interview at 702, where he basically said the following. Now, as I said, Eskom CEO Andre de Ruyter said they needed to get to the root of these theft syndicates, quoted as having said, however, we still need to get to the higher echelons of these syndicates. And this is where we anticipate some of the intelligence we're sharing with the state security agency as well as with crime intelligence that will start to bear fruit. End of quote. And he's absolutely right. It kind of is a bit odd. And given the relationship, the poor relationship perhaps, between Gwede Mantashe, the Minister of Energy and Mineral Resources, with Andre de Ruyter, the CEO of Eskom, maybe that's the genesis for why the State Security Agency has been perhaps keeping a closer eye on Andre as opposed to these criminal syndicates. Remember, one has to remember this. The ANC benefits from the chaos and the turmoil at Eskom. The ANC looks at state-owned enterprises, especially Eskom with its massive budgets, as a feeding trough for ANC political elites and indeed also politicians and their families. They look at state-owned enterprises as a fiefdom for themselves. Don't take it from me. Listen to Andre de Ruyter basically concede as much.
Is Eskom a feeding trough, if you like, for the ANC?
I would say the evidence suggests that it is. I expressed my concern to a senior government minister about attempts, in my view, to water down governance around the $8.5 billion that, by and large, through Eskom's intervention, we got at COP26. And the response was essentially, you have to be pragmatic. You have to, in order to pursue the greater good, you have to enable some people to eat a little bit.
Yes, that's right. Andre de Ruyter, a man already on his way out anyway, having submitted his resignation and serving presumably his notice period, is now beginning to spill the beans as to the sort of shenanigans that happen at SOEs like Eskom. Not that we didn't know this, but some people still live in the la-la land of believing that these same politicians who are feeding at the trough, destroying these organizations, leaving them weak at a governance level in order to exploit them, are somehow going to be the same politicians that save them from the mess that they're in, the load shedding, the blackouts, and the like. Stop believing that state-owned enterprises are entities that serve you. They are entities that serve politicians and the political elites. And until we privatize these organizations, allow the private sector to come in, generate the service, and allow us as customers to buy actual services that we get, which is currently not the case now, until we allow the private sector to do this, then these feeding troughs for politicians and their friends, including their friends in the criminal syndicates, will continue to operate unabated. Right, that's it for this episode of Vuka Nazo. Let me know what you think about these stories, please. But hey, here's the thing. If you like how I start your news day, then you'll love our friends over at The Daily Friend. They come to you Mondays to Thursday at 1:30 p.m. That's dailyfriend.co.za. Now, on your way out, folks, please hit that like button and please share the show. Let your friends see the content and become fans of the show. What are some of the best ways you can become a fan? By subscribing, of course, especially if you're watching on YouTube. Subscribe and help me reach my goal of 50,000 subscribers by the end of the year. Find us on our website also at bigdaddyliberty.com. With that being said, I'll see you tomorrow bright and early for another episode of Vuka Nazo.